Welcome back to J&J Dynasty. It's time for a little bit of way too early quarterback rankings. So let's get that off. Once again, welcome to J&J Dynasty. Um, just to let everybody know that I have not done a ton of work on these guys. I saw them play in college. I saw some stuff. I've read a bunch of stuff. Or watched a bunch of YouTube videos. So this is my compilation of what I think about these guys currently. The Senior Bowl just happened this weekend, so we've got some updated information on that. But there's some really good quarterback prospects in this draft, and I'm going to give you my take on what I'm going to be doing to them or trying to be doing with them in many of my leagues. Ooh, got a little puffy there. Yeah, all right, get that out of the way. All right, so let's get into this video. As I said, the Senior Bowl just happened, so Spencer Rattler is getting a little bit of extra pub, and so I'm going to have him put him back on my list, even though he's a sixth-year senior, I believe it is. He washed out of Oklahoma after Caleb Williams took over his spot. Then he couldn't do anything for a couple of years at South Carolina, and now he's getting pub because, of course, he has the attributes that NFL scouts are wanting. But I wanted to start off the video, and I'm going to throw a few things in here so people can't just slide through and not actually watch the video. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of fun with that action. So let's get right into the video. And my number one guy for the long haul, not for year one, for the long haul is going to be Drake May. One of the few things that I do like about him, I mean, he's a Josh Allen type of clone, Justin Herbert type of clone, Joe Burrow type of clone. Not because they're white quarterbacks, but because they've got the size, the prototypical NFL size, and all of those guys ran quite a bit in college. So we will see, where he falls on that spectrum, whether he's more of a pocket passer like Burrow, I'm sorry, Herbert. Herbert was the running quarterback in college who became nothing but the pocket passer, basically. Burrow's kind of in between there, where he was a running quarterback and people didn't realize he was a running quarterback in college, and he's does a little bit of that, but mostly a pocket passer. So, but he seems to like go run a little bit more in the NFL. And whereas Josh Allen he's almost 50-50. He's a pocket passer who just runs the heck out of the ball. And Drake May, I mean, so that's kind of what I think is your low, medium, and upside as far as what Drake May can become for the future. So if you look at all three of those guys are basically always mentioned in the top five. So just for that simple reason, that's the reason why I want Drake May. That's the reason why I have him as my number one quarterback. So it's a coin flip, right? Because at number two, you get Caleb Williams, the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes that there is. The Super Bowl is upcoming this weekend, so we don't know if Mahomes wins his third or he's just playing in his fourth Super Bowl. So, but Caleb Williams, I mean, how do you go wrong with taking a flyer on him, right? So he is going to be my number two guy. He's got all the upside in the world, supposedly. I personally, and the reason this is one of the big reasons why I think I have him at number two, I think he's reached his ceiling already. I think he is what he is. A lot of guys are talking about him just only playing off schedule, and all that kind of stuff. I do think that he can play on schedule if he has the requisite talent around him. He proved it with Jordan Addison. So I don't think that those concerns are, that legitimate. But I do think that he may have reached his majority of his potential. So I don't see a huge ceiling for him. But I mean, he's already a dang, 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 dang good player. So I mean, really, I mean, what more do you want? I mean, if he just continues his college career in the NFL, he's going to put up huge numbers, and everybody's going to love him in fantasy. So whether he wins championships in real football, he's probably going to win you championships in fantasy football. So I mean, it's a real tough call as far as it goes between May and Caleb Williams. But I mean, look at the way if you look at these guys, their comps, right? In the fantasy world, Would you rather have Josh Allen? Or would you rather have Mahomes? I want Josh Allen because 3 out of the last 4 years he's been the number one player in fantasy football. Mahomes has been once. I mean, they're both right there, 1, 2, 3 every year. But I mean, Allen scores just a little bit more. So if my comp, my high ceiling is May, that's why I'm picking him over Williams. Secondarily, and this is right now the way the consensus is going with what I'm watching everywhere, is that Caleb Williams is number one quarterback. Jaden Daniels is number two, and Drake May is number three. So if I can get Drake May, my personal number one, in the mid to late second round in one quarterback drafts, I'm loving it. I'm loving every minute of it, right? So another reason why I think is why I have him bumped up over Caleb Williams is because of the value. Williams is probably going to go at 10, pick 10. May not go until pick 18 or so. So we'll see. We'll see how the drafts actually wind up breaking down. Then, I mean, honestly, Jaden Daniels, I like it. I like his tape. I like a lot of things about him. Things I've seen on tape about him, about people breaking him down, is that it seems that he doesn't throw on schedule. He doesn't throw guys open, which is a big concern. The number one way to become a backup quarterback is continue to do that and not to grow. We know that he transferred, and I believe this is his fourth year as a quarterback. So a little bit of concerns with that, that he didn't outgrow that. I mean, the wide receiver talent around him is not the issue. The players around him is not the issue with him trusting people. I mean, Malik Neighbors is my personal number one guy also. And I don't do this stuff just to be counter. This is how I see things. And I'm a little bit weird, a little bit different. You guys probably know this from watching a few of the other videos. But Jaden Daniels, I think that he's a huge boomer bust. He could be something really good in fantasy football, or he could not be any good. So we will see what winds up happening with him. And honestly, I mean, and I put him here because he's really consensus number two guy currently. So I have him as my third guy just because of the value for him. It's really a really big toss up for me currently between him and Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix, well, I guess that's a spoiler crusher or whatever you want to call it. Penix Jr., I think he's gotten a lot of love here also in the Senior Bowl, but just the way he throws the ball with quarterback, QB, NFL ready QB style, I think that he's much more your prototypical type of quarterback. Things I don't like about him is he's left-handed. Catching a lot of balls, growing up. My father was left-handed. The ball spins differently. It's a different spin on the ball. You have to get used to it coming at you, especially when people throw the ball hard. So left-handed does make a difference. So don't let anybody tell you that it doesn't. But the fact remains that he's got the requisite arm to be an NFL quarterback. That's all they talked about at the Senior Bowl, is that he had the big arm. You can notice the arm difference between him and Bo Nix and all these other guys. And then there's guys that were getting a lot of love like Spencer Rattler. But Penix is actually, I mean, my number three guy. I'm going to put Jaden Daniels ahead of him right now because of the upside and how the love that Daniels is getting to being number two, because that'd be way too controversial to put him over him. But I think overall, for the long term in the NFL, Penix is gonna be a better quarterback than Daniels. So, but the problem is that Penix, you're probably gonna be able to draft him in the third, fourth, or fifth round in your drafts. So, and I guess I should say that all of these guys, almost all of these guys, are draft team dependent, right? So obviously, if Jaden Daniels gets drafted behind or by Dallas, if they franchise take Dak and then Jaden Daniels is going to be the quarterback next year, well, that might slide him down a little bit on my board. Same thing for Penix or any of these guys. If they're behind somebody who's going to be there at least a year, they're going to slide down the board a little bit. But I mean, I think the top three guys, In my list here with May, Williams, and Daniels, all three of those guys are going to go someplace where they're going to be able to start immediately. So I think that that's not going to be a real issue. It's the rest of these guys in the list going backwards. It's going to be draft position and team dependent as far as when they actually get a shot, right? So let's move on here. Bo Nix lit it up a little bit at the Senior Bowl during the game. People liked him. I mean, I see him as a solid bottom half of the league type of quarterback. I mean, he could conceivably wind up being something like maybe a Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, as probably his ceiling. More so, I mean, just a plain old backup type of role. I mean, a solid quarterback. I don't see a lot special about him. I do think, though, that like a lot of people don't, I do think that he can be a productive NFL quarterback. He could probably be a productive fantasy quarterback if he lands in the right spot. So I do like Bo Nix. I'm not as high on him as some, and I'm not as low on him as some. He's a guy, as how I feel about him. Obviously, right to change my mind depending on where he gets drafted or who gets him, what offense and things like that. So that's where I have him. I threw Coleman in here just to really mess with some people's minds in case they're trying to scroll through and see who I'm throwing down on the list. That's why I had Spencer Rattler a little bit earlier also, talking about talking about the Senior Bowl. So this is what I'm really doing is I'm just trying to get it out there for these guys. A lot of these guys are going to need some work in the NFL before they really become productive. A lot of these guys from this point on in the video, even Bo Nix, maybe even Michael Penix Jr., right, are going to be guys who I'm not necessarily even going to draft in this year's draft because I don't want them wasting a roster spot for me. So with that being said, my goal is like think of Jordan Love coming into this year, right? Last year, a lot of people picked him up week 14, week 15, and put him on the roster. And they just sat on him, and then he became the starting quarterback the next year, right? Because they moved Rodgers on. So think about these guys, picking these guys up at the end of next year more so, depending on where their draft landing spot is in the draft. So that's going to be the approach that I'm going to take with a lot of these guys. I mean, I'm pretty full on most of my rosters with quarterbacks, but this is a great quarterback draft year. So you probably want to get quite a few of these guys, and these guys still have a lot of upside. I mean, a little bit down on Bo Nix maybe, and I think that he's a quality player. I'm going to try and get a share of him. I'm going to try and get a share of every one of these guys because especially in leagues where I only have a Dak and not much else. I've got one league where I've got Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield. That's terrible. I've got the number 2 pick, and that's because I don't have very good quarterbacks. So, but this year it's an easy way to upgrade that and go from there. So I wanted to leave the Coleman picture up for a while so that people think that I'm actually talking about Coleman. But no, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of background of where I'm at. So here are some of the other guys here. Michael Pratt. He's getting some love in a bunch of circles, and I want to put him up here a little bit further. I mean, he's probably my last guy on the list, but we're flipping stuff a little bit. He supposedly has a nice arm. He can throw in windows. If I can't remember if he was a coach's son or something like that, but he sounds like he's very smart. Gets the ball on time. He's put up some really big games with Tulane, and it's Tulane, the T, whatever, Toledo, Tulane, whatever it is, the Green Wave, yeah. So at any rate, he looks like a prospect who's going to be on the borderline. I have him in here just to watch him, right? So in the end of the year, maybe as a backup quarterback, maybe he's going to get a shot second year or something like that. But I mean, he's not somebody who's on my big time list, but just a name to throw out there to watch out for him, right? We talked a little bit about Spencer Rattler here. Let me get a quickie drinky. he's got a nice arm. He's got the requisite talent. I mean, they were talking about him being the first overall pick 3 years ago. Now, when he actually comes out as a 6 year senior, well, now he's actually getting mentioned again. Well, it's because of his athletic profile. Um, he has improved some as a quarterback, supposedly, but I hope so after playing 3 more years of college. So, um, do I have him high on my list? Do I think that he can succeed in the NFL? Probably not, but why take the chance? If he gets drafted in the right spot, right value, you know, either take a chance on him in the fifth round of our drafts or get him, like I said, at the end of next year to see if he's going to wind up becoming something, right? He's also just a name to keep in mind if the starter goes down. You might want to switch to him real quick. He's probably a Desmond Ritter type of candidate, but you never know. I mean, you can still get points out of him, right? So, you got to know in the back of your head. This is the guy who is kind of like the no-name guy that I'm interested in. I don't think that he's going to do anything this upcoming year. He needs work, but he has all the tools. He's younger than all these other guys. And I think that in the right situation, if he is given a Jordan Love type chance, I think JJ could wind up being a pretty good NFL quarterback. He also might get messed up by starting him right away. A David Carr situation, although David Carr was pretty decent for a couple of years until he got the competitiveness beat out of him by the offensive line. But I do like JJ. I personally would like to see him go to a place like maybe Minnesota. If Minnesota gets Kirk Cousins to a 2 year contract, they draft JJ in the third round. They're at what, 310, 311, something like that, I think. If they draft him there, make him a project quarterback in 2 or 3 years, I think that he could be a really good player if somebody could teach him how all the aspects of being a quarterback. He's got a lot of the talent. He can run. He's got the big arm, those kind of things, but he's a ways off. So, congratulations, Michigan, on the national championship, I guess, also. Those are kind of my quarterbacks. That's how I'm going to roll it out there. There's a few other guys to his brother and some other guys who are getting some pub, but they've been in college forever. So there's a reason that they're in college forever. The top couple guys here, right, are basically 3 years and they're out, and that's what you really want to see with your quarterbacks. If you don't see that, they're probably not going to make it because they can't make adjustments. And as we see every year, it's about making just adjustments in game, per series, during the year. I mean, you get a new offensive coordinator almost every year, at least every other year. You're learning new schemes, new whatever. So you really need to be have the knowledge of playing quarterback to play quarterback in the NFL. So guys like JJ, they really need to study up. They need to treat it like a craft and do something. I mean, at this point, he's kind of like a Tim Tebow, where he's got the athletic ability and stuff like that. But can he be a true NFL quarterback? So that's pretty much what I think I have for you for this way too early QB rankings. Right to reserve judgment and change everything on here at this point. But I figured this was a good time with the Senior Bowl steam coming out on all these guys, and then also the week before the Super Bowl. So a little bit of content. I've been haven't been putting much out there, so hopefully we'll be putting a little bit more. Haven't done it, like I said, I haven't done a lot of this. I've watched some highlight reels, listened to some guys trying to get my knowledge for who I want to watch or possibly draft in this draft, right? And where I'm going to be. Do I want to trade some draft picks and things like that? So that's where I'm at, and that's where I'm coming from with these guys. So once again, this is J&J Dynasty. I think I'm going to sign off with that. Until next time, take care. Stop recording.